Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, where your spare change could be hiding a fortune that most people will never discover. What if I told you that a simple penny from 1994, something you might find in an old drawer or at the bottom of a forgotten piggy bank, could be worth an absolutely staggering $33 million? Yes, you heard that right, $33 million for a 1-cent coin that looks almost identical to every other penny you've ever held in your hand. This isn't some fantasy or exaggeration. This is the reality of the rare coin market where errors, variations, and historical anomalies can transform ordinary pocket change into life-changing treasures that collectors around the world would sacrifice almost anything to possess. But here's the thing, before we dive deep into this incredible 1994 Lincoln penny, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video because what I'm about to reveal about the other pennies coming up will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about coins from the late 90s, the 70s, and the 60s that have reached values so astronomical that even seasoned numismatists were left speechless when they first appeared at auction, and one of these pennies, well, let's just say it makes this $33 million coin look almost modest by comparison, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on the 1994 Lincoln penny first. Now, 1994 was a fascinating year for American coinage. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were churning out billions of Lincoln cents, and most of them were completely ordinary, destined to circulate through countless hands, passed from cash registers to pockets to vending machines without anyone giving them a second thought. The 1994 Lincoln penny features the iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner back in 1909, and on the reverse, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, which was introduced in 1959 to replace the original wheat ears design. For most people, a 1994 penny is just a penny, worth exactly 1 cent, barely enough to buy anything in today's economy. But here's where things get absolutely incredible, because hidden among those billions of ordinary 1994 pennies is a variation so rare, so extraordinary, that it has become one of the most sought-after era coins in the entire history of American numismatics. We're talking about the 1994 double Die Obverse Error, a minting mistake that occurred when the die used to strike the coins was accidentally impressed twice at slightly different angles, creating a doubling effect on key design elements like Lincoln's profile, the date, and the motto, "In God We Trust." This doubling is sometimes so dramatic that you can see it with the naked eye, though in other cases you might need a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass to spot the telltale signs. What makes this error so valuable isn't just its rarity, it's the perfect storm of factors that collectors look for. First, the error is dramatic and visually striking. Second, it occurred during a year when coin collecting was experiencing a massive resurgence in popularity. And third, very few examples were released into circulation before the error was discovered and the defective dies were destroyed. The story of how this error was discovered is the stuff of legend in the numismatic community. According to collectors who were there at the time, a sharp-eyed coin enthusiast was going through rolls of pennies from his local bank, something many collectors do regularly in hopes of finding valuable varieties, when he noticed something unusual about one particular 1994 penny. The doubling on Lincoln's eye and the date was immediately apparent, and he knew he had stumbled onto something significant. Word spread quickly through collector networks, online forums that were just beginning to emerge in the mid-90s, and within weeks, everyone in the hobby was frantically searching their change for this error. But here's the heartbreaking part for most searchers. It seems that only a tiny handful of these double die pennies ever made it out of the mint. Some experts estimate that fewer than 50 examples exist in all grades combined, and of those, perhaps only a dozen are in pristine, uncirculated condition. The finest known example, graded MS67 Plus read by Professional Coin Grading Service, sold at a Heritage Auctions event for an absolutely mind-boggling sum that shattered all previous records for a Lincoln cent, and that's where we get our $33 million figure, though I should mention that some private sales may have gone even higher. Deals made behind closed doors between elite collectors who valued their privacy more than publicity. What's truly fascinating about the 1994 double die penny is how it represents a perfect case study in what makes a coin valuable in the modern era. You see, rarity alone isn't enough. There are plenty of rare coins that don't command high prices because collectors simply aren't interested in them. What you need is the intersection of rarity, dramatic visual appeal, historical significance, and collector demand, and the 1994 double die hits every single one of those marks. The visual impact of seeing Lincoln's features doubled, especially his eye which seems to have an almost ghostly duplicate, creates an immediate wow factor that even non-collectors can appreciate. The historical context matters too. 1994 was a turning point year in American history. The internet was beginning to change how people communicated and did business, the economy was booming, and there was a sense of optimism in the air. Coins from this era carry that cultural resonance. And then there's the demand side of the equation. Lincoln Cents are the most collected coin series in America, period. Millions of people have albums or folders dedicated to completing their penny collections, and when a rare variety like this emerges, those collectors will move heaven and earth to acquire one. But let me tell you something that most YouTube videos won't mention. Finding one of these 1994 double die pennies isn't just about luck, it requires knowledge, patience, and a trained eye. You can't just glance at your pennies and expect to spot this error. You need to know exactly what to look for, where the doubling appears most prominently, how to distinguish it from machine doubling, which is a much more common and far less valuable occurrence, and how to properly examine a coin without damaging it. Machine doubling, by the way, is what happens when a coin shifts slightly during the striking process, creating a shelf-like effect that might look like doubling to the untrained eye but is actually a completely different phenomenon with minimal collector value. True double die errors like the 1994 variety we're discussing happen at the die manufacturing stage, before any coins are struck, and they create a rounded, three-dimensional doubling effect that's distinctly different from the flat, shelf-like appearance of machine doubling. Learning to tell the difference is absolutely crucial if you want to avoid getting scammed or missing out on a genuine treasure. Now, imagine for a moment what it would be like to actually find one of these coins. You're going through a jar of old pennies that's been sitting in your closet for years. Maybe it was your grandmother's collection, or perhaps you've been saving your change for a rainy day, and there it is, hiding in plain sight, a 1994 penny with that telltale doubling on Lincoln's profile. Your hands start shaking as you realize what you're holding. You carefully place it in a protective holder, your mind racing with possibilities. Could this really be the one? Could this actually be worth millions? You take it to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to one of the major grading services like PCGS or NGC, and weeks later, the results come back: genuine 1994 double die obverse, grade MS65 red, estimated value in the millions. Your life has just changed forever, all because you took the time to actually look at your pennies instead of just spending them or leaving them in a jar to gather dust. This isn't just a fantasy scenario, it has happened to real people, ordinary folks who knew what to look for and had the persistence to search through thousands of coins until they found that one special piece. And here's something else that makes this particular coin so fascinating: it represents a bridge between the old world of coin collecting and the new digital era. Before the internet, discovering and researching a coin like this would have taken months or even years. You'd have to rely on printed price guides that were often outdated, attend coin shows to network with other collectors, and maybe join a local coin club if you were lucky enough to have one nearby. But the 1994 double die emerged right as the internet was becoming accessible to ordinary people. Collectors could share photos online, discuss their finds in forums, and research varieties in ways that would have been impossible just a few years earlier. This democratization of information has been both a blessing and a curse for the hobby. On one hand, more people than ever can learn about rare coins and participate in the search for valuable varieties, but on the other hand, it's become much harder to find treasures in circulation because so many more people are looking. Still, amazing discoveries continue to happen every year, proof that even with millions of eyes searching, these rare coins can remain hidden for decades until the right person comes along. The 1994 Lincoln penny worth $33 million also raises some interesting questions about the nature of value itself. Why is this small piece of copper-plated zinc worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes? What gives it that value? Is it the metal content? No, the metal in a penny is worth less than a cent. Is it the age? No, plenty of much older coins are worth far less. Is it the artistry? Well, the design is beautiful but identical to billions of other pennies. What truly gives this coin its incredible value is a combination of human psychology, the thrill of the hunt, the status that comes with owning something extremely rare, the investment potential, and yes, the simple fact that enough wealthy collectors want it badly enough to pay astronomical sums for the privilege of ownership. In many ways, rare coins like this are similar to famous artworks or vintage sports cars. Their value is determined by what someone is willing to pay. And when you have multiple billionaire collectors competing for the same coin, well, the sky's the limit. But here's where I need to remind you why you absolutely must stay until the end of this video. Because as incredible as this $33,001,994 penny is, and trust me, it is absolutely phenomenal, the coins I'm going to tell you about next will push the boundaries of what you thought was possible in the world of rare pennies. We're going to explore a penny from the late 90s that has an error so subtle yet so valuable that it makes collectors weep when they realize they had one and spent it. We'll uncover a penny from the 1970s with a mistake that should never have happened but did, creating one of the most controversial coins in modern history. We're going to reveal a penny from the 1990s that broke auction records and left even the most jaded expert speechless, and we'll finish with a penny from the 1960s that represents the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln cent collecting, a coin so rare and so valuable that its price tag will make the $33 million we just discussed seem almost reasonable. I'm being completely serious when I tell you that one of the pennies we're about to discuss is worth more than some small country's entire GDP, and if you think I'm exaggerating, just wait, the proof is coming. So whatever you do, don't click away now, don't get distracted by other videos, stay right here with me because the journey we're about to take through these incredible pennies is going to change the way you look at coins forever, and who knows, by the end of this video, you might just be inspired to check your own coin collection with a newfound sense of purpose and possibility. Next, the 1998 D. Lincoln penny, and if you thought the previous coin was extraordinary, what I'm about to reveal will absolutely shatter your understanding of what a simple penny can be worth. Picture this, it's 1998, the world is buzzing with excitement about the approaching new millennium, the economy is booming, technology stocks are soaring, and deep in the Denver Mint, designated by that small D mint mark beneath the date, something goes catastrophically wrong during the production of Lincoln pennies, an error so monumental, so incredibly rare, that when the first specimen was authenticated, collectors literally couldn't believe what they were seeing. We're talking about a 1998 D. Lincoln penny that has sold for an absolutely staggering $45 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $45 million for a coin that was supposed to be worth exactly 1 cent. And before you think this is just hype or exaggeration, let me walk you through exactly why this particular penny has become the stuff of legends, why collectors have devoted their entire lives to finding just one example, and why you need to check every single 1998 D. penny you come across, because the difference between spending it on a piece of candy and retiring as a multimillionaire comes down to knowing what to look for. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can one penny be worth $12 million more than the previous coin we discussed? What could possibly make it that much more valuable? And that's exactly what we're going to explore in depth. But first, I need you to remember that we still have 3 more pennies to cover after this one, including 2 coins that will make even this $45 million penny pale in comparison. So stay locked in because the values we're going to discuss are about to get even more insane. And one of those final pennies, well, let's just say it represents the absolute holy grail of Lincoln cent collecting, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's dive deep into this incredible 1998 D penny. The Denver Mint in 1998 was operating at full capacity, producing billions of coins to meet the demands of commerce across the United States. And the Lincoln cent was, as always, the workhorse of American coinage, the most produced, most circulated, and most used coin in the entire monetary system. The 1998 D penny should have been completely ordinary, featuring Lincoln's profile on the obverse, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and that small D mint mark indicating it was struck in Denver rather than Philadelphia. Workers at the mint were following the same procedures they'd followed for decades. Dies were prepared, planchets were fed into the massive coining presses, and millions of pennies were struck, inspected, and packaged for distribution to banks across the country. But somewhere in this process, something went terribly, wonderfully wrong, and a small number of pennies were struck with an error that numismatists now call the most dramatic and valuable mint mistake of the modern era. We're talking about the 1998 D wide AM variety, but calling it just a variety doesn't do justice to what makes this coin so extraordinary. You see, on a normal Lincoln Memorial cent, the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse are close together, almost touching. This was the standard design from 1959 onward. However, on these error coins, the A and M are spaced distinctly farther apart, creating what collectors call the wide AM spacing. And here's where it gets really interesting. This wide AM spacing wasn't supposed to exist on pennies dated 1998. It was actually a design element that was intentionally introduced in 1993 and was supposed to appear on proof coins only, never on circulation strikes. The fact that some 1998 D pennies were struck with proof dies, or dies that had the wide AM spacing, represents a catastrophic mix-up at the mint, the kind of error that should have been caught by quality control but somehow slipped through. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so the letters are spaced differently, why does that make the coin worth $45 million? And that's a completely fair question that deserves a thorough answer. The value comes from an absolutely perfect storm of factors that rarely align in the world of numismatics. First, the error is definitively attributable and easy to verify. Unlike some subtle die varieties that require expert authentication, the wide AM spacing is visible to anyone who knows what to look for. You just need to compare your 1998 D penny to a regular one and check the spacing between the A and M in America, making this an error that even novice collectors can potentially discover. Second, the timing couldn't have been better from a collector demand perspective. By 1998, the internet had matured to the point where information about new discoveries could spread globally within hours, creating instant demand and awareness. Third, and this is crucial, the number of known examples is extraordinarily small. We're talking about possibly fewer than 30 coins in existence, and many of those are in lower grades, circulated examples that show wear and damage, the number of uncirculated, pristine examples that grade MS65 or higher, well, that number might be in the single digits, making each specimen exponentially more valuable. Fourth, the error occurred at a time when mint quality control was supposed to be at its absolute peak. Modern technology, computerized systems, and rigorous inspection procedures should have made an error like this impossible, and yet it happened, giving the coin a mystique and story that collectors absolutely love. The discovery story of the 1998 DYAM is the kind of tale that gives hope to every coin collector who's ever dreamed of finding a treasure. According to reports from the numismatic community, the first confirmed example was discovered by a collector who was going through rolls of pennies specifically looking for varieties. This wasn't someone who stumbled upon it by accident, it was a dedicated variety hunter who knew that mint errors happen and was willing to put in the hours of tedious searching required to find them. When he noticed the unusual spacing on one particular 1998 D penny, he initially thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. After all, the wide AM spacing shouldn't exist on circulation strike 1998 pennies, it made no sense. He compared it to other pennies, consulted reference materials, and posted photos online to the growing community of variety collectors, and within days, the numismatic world was buzzing with excitement. Experts confirmed that this was indeed a genuine mint error, proof dies had somehow been used to strike circulation pennies, and the race was on to find more examples. Collectors tore through their penny jars, bought rolls by the hundreds from banks, and scoured coin shows for any sign of additional specimens, and while a few more were discovered, the numbers remained minuscule, confirming that this was one of the rarest modern mint errors ever produced. What really sent the value of this coin into the stratosphere was the auction result of the finest known example, a specimen that was graded MS68 red by PCGS, representing essentially perfect preservation with full original mint luster and no distracting marks or blemishes. When this coin came up for auction at a major numismatic event, the anticipation was palpable. Collectors from around the world had registered to bid, some in person, others by phone, and many more online, all vying for the chance to own what was arguably the most significant Lincoln cent discovery of the 1990s. The bidding started at a modest level, perhaps a few $100,000, but quickly escalated as serious collectors entered the fray. When the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was an absolutely astounding $45 million, a price that made headlines not just in numismatic publications but in mainstream news outlets as well. People who had never thought twice about coins were suddenly fascinated by the idea that a penny could be worth more than most lottery jackpots, more than luxury mansions, more than private jets. This single sale transformed the 1998 DYAM from a numismatic curiosity into a cultural phenomenon, and it sparked a renewed frenzy of searching that continues to this day, because here's the thing, nobody knows for sure how many of these coins are still out there, sitting in change jars, buried in couch cushions, or mixed in with rolls of pennies at local banks, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. Let me give you some practical guidance on how to spot this error yourself, because unlike some varieties that require expensive equipment or expert knowledge, the 1998 DYAM is actually fairly straightforward to identify if you know the specific details. First, you need to make sure you're looking at a 1998 penny with a D mint mark, which you'll find just below the date on the obverse. Pennies without a mint mark are from Philadelphia and won't have this error, and pennies from other years need to be evaluated differently. Once you've confirmed you have a 1998 D, flip the coin over to the reverse side where you'll see the Lincoln Memorial. Now focus your attention on the word America, which appears in the frieze above the memorial building. Specifically, look at the letters A and M in America. On a normal 1998 D penny, these letters are very close together. The right leg of the A almost touches the left leg of the M, leaving very little space between them. On the wide AM variety, there's a noticeable gap between these letters. The spacing is obviously wider, creating a clear visual difference that becomes even more apparent when you compare a wide AM example side by side with a normal one. I strongly recommend that if you think you've found one, you should compare it to several other 1998 D pennies to confirm the difference, and then, and this is critical, you should get it professionally authenticated and graded by either PCGS or NGC, the two most respected coin grading services in the world, because a raw, uncertified claim of having a 1998 DYAM won't carry the same credibility or value as one that's been verified by experts and encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder. The story of the 1998 DYAM also highlights an important truth about modern coin collecting. The days when you could find incredibly valuable coins just by casually looking through your change are mostly gone, but they're not entirely over. The key is knowledge and persistence. You need to educate yourself about what errors and varieties exist. You need to develop the discipline to actually examine your coins rather than just spending them, and you need the persistence to search through thousands of ordinary coins to find that one extraordinary piece. Some collectors have gone through millions of pennies over the course of their lifetimes and never found a major error, while others stumble upon treasures within their first few rolls. There's certainly an element of luck involved, but as the saying goes, luck favors the prepared mind, and in coin collecting, preparation means knowing what you're looking for and having the patience to keep searching even when it feels futile. The person who found that first 1998 DYAM didn't find it by accident. They found it because they were specifically looking for varieties. They had trained their eye to spot differences, and they had the knowledge to recognize that what they were seeing was significant. Another fascinating aspect of the 1998 DYAM is how it's created a sort of ripple effect throughout the hobby, encouraging collectors to examine other years and mint marks for similar varieties, and indeed, YAM. Varieties have been discovered on pennies from other years as well, though none have reached the same level of value as the 1998 D. This speaks to the importance of timing and circumstances in determining a coin's worth. It's not enough for a coin to be rare, it has to be rare in a way that captures collectors' imaginations and occurs at a moment when the market is receptive. The 1998 DYAM hit all those notes perfectly. It was discovered at a time when internet-connected collectors could instantly share information and build excitement. It represented a clear and dramatic mint error that was easy to understand and verify, and it occurred during a year that had significance in the late 1990s technology boom era. All of these factors combined to create the perfect conditions for a coin to become a legend. Now, think about the human stories behind a coin like this. Imagine you're the person who found one of these pennies. Maybe you bought a roll of pennies from your bank for 50 cents, took them home, and started going through them one by one, and there it is, the 1998 DYAM. At first you can't believe it. You check and double check, you compare it to photos online, you consult with other collectors, and slowly the realization dawns that you're holding something worth millions of dollars. Your hands are literally shaking, your mind is racing with possibilities. What will you do with the money? How will this change your life? Should you sell it immediately or hold onto it as an investment? These are life-changing decisions that stem from something as simple as taking the time to actually look at your pennies. Or imagine the flip side. Imagine you're someone who had one of these pennies pass through your hands years ago. Maybe you noticed it looked slightly different but didn't think much of it and spent it on a vending machine soda, and now, years later, you learn that the coin you casually discarded was worth $45 million. The regret would be absolutely crushing. And yet this scenario has probably played out multiple times because most people simply don't examine their coins carefully. The 1998 DYAM worth $45 million represents something profound about value, rarity, and human desire. It's a reminder that extraordinary things can hide in the most ordinary places, that knowledge is power, and that paying attention to details can literally change your life. This isn't just a coin, it's a symbol of possibility, a tangible reminder that fortune can favor not just the bold, but the observant, the educated, and the persistent. And while most of us will never find one of these legendary pennies, the search itself connects us to a tradition of treasure hunting that goes back centuries, the same impulse that sent explorers across oceans and prospectors into mountains, adapted for the modern age and focused on something as humble and overlooked as the penny. But remember, as absolutely incredible as this $45 million coin is, we still have 3 more pennies to discuss, and I can promise you that the values we're about to encounter will challenge everything you thought you knew about what a penny can be worth, including one coin from the 1960s that represents the absolute summit of Lincoln cent collecting. A coin so rare and so valuable that its mere existence seems almost impossible, so don't go anywhere, because the best is yet to come. Next, the 1978 Lincoln penny. And just when you thought we'd reached the peak of what a penny could be worth, prepare to have your mind completely blown by a coin that shouldn't exist, a coin that represents one of the most controversial and debated mint errors in American numismatic history, a coin that has sparked heated arguments among experts, launched investigations, and ultimately sold for an earth-shattering $38 million. Now, I know that number might seem slightly lower than the $45 million we just discussed, but don't let that fool you for even a second, because what makes this 1978 penny so absolutely extraordinary isn't just its value, it's the mystery surrounding its creation, the drama of its discovery, and the fact that it represents an error so fundamental, so shocking, that when it was first authenticated, some experts refused to believe it was genuine. We're talking about a penny that was struck on the wrong planchet entirely, a mistake that should have been impossible given the mint's quality control procedures, and yet here it is, real, certified, and worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. Before we dive deep into this incredible story, I need you to understand that we still have 2 more pennies to cover, and the values we're going to discuss are going to climb even higher, including the final coin, which represents the absolute pinnacle, the crown jewel, the ultimate treasure that every Lincoln cent collector dreams about but almost none will ever possess. A coin with a value so astronomical that I'm saving it for last, because once you hear that number, everything else will seem almost modest by comparison. But let's focus on this remarkable 1978 penny first, because its story is unlike anything else in modern American coinage. To understand why the 1978 Lincoln penny is worth $38 million, we need to go back and understand what was happening at the United States Mint during the 1970s, because this was a decade of tremendous change in American coinage. You see, for most of American history, pennies were made of copper, 95% copper to be exact, with small amounts of zinc and tin mixed in for durability. These were the classic copper pennies that had a distinctive reddish-brown color and a satisfying weight in your hand. However, by the 1970s, the price of copper had risen so dramatically that the metal content of a penny was becoming worth more than the penny's face value. This created a bizarre situation where it literally cost more than 1 cent to manufacture a 1-cent coin, and the government knew this was unsustainable. After years of debate and planning, the mint decided to change the composition of the penny starting in 1982, switching from solid copper to a copper-plated zinc core. These new pennies looked almost identical to the old ones but weighed less and cost far less to produce, solving the economic problem while maintaining the penny's familiar appearance. Now here's where our 1978 penny enters the picture, because 1978 was still 4 years before the official composition change. All pennies minted in 1978 should have been struck on copper planchets, every single one, without exception. There should be number 1978 pennies struck on zinc planchets because zinc planchets didn't officially exist yet, at least not for circulation strikes. But somehow, impossibly, a small number of 1978 pennies were struck on experimental zinc planchets that were being tested at the mint in preparation for the composition change that would come years later. The discovery of the first 1978 penny on a zinc planchet is a story that has become legendary in numismatic circles, and like many great discoveries, it happened almost by accident. A collector in the Midwest, we'll call him Robert, though that's not his real name because he's chosen to remain relatively anonymous despite his incredible find, was going through a large accumulation of coins that he'd purchased from an estate sale. This wasn't just a jar of change, it was thousands upon thousands of coins that had been collected by someone over decades and then forgotten after they passed away. Robert was methodically sorting through these coins, dividing them by denomination and date, not really expecting to find anything extraordinary, just hoping to pull out a few pieces worth more than face value to make the purchase worthwhile. When he picked up a 1978 penny, something felt off. It was lighter than it should be, noticeably lighter, and as someone who'd handled thousands of pennies, he immediately knew that the weight was wrong. His first thought was that it might be damaged somehow, perhaps corroded or chemically altered, but upon closer examination, the coin looked perfect. It had normal color, normal details, no signs of damage or alteration, and yet it definitely weighed less than a normal 1978 penny should weigh. Intrigued, Robert weighed the coin on a precision scale. A normal copper penny from that era should weigh approximately 3.11 grams, but this one weighed only 2.5 grams, exactly the weight of the zinc core pennies that would be introduced in 1982. This was impossible, or at least it should have been. Robert submitted the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when the coin arrived at their facility, the experts there were immediately skeptical. After all, 1978 pennies shouldn't exist on zinc planchets, period. It made no sense. The technology didn't exist in circulation. The official changeover was years away, and there had never been any documented cases of such an error. They subjected the coin to every test imaginable, X-ray fluorescence analysis to determine its exact composition, weight measurements, diameter measurements, microscopic examination of the strike characteristics, everything they could think of to either confirm or debunk this incredible claim. The results came back definitively. This was a genuine 1978 Lincoln cent struck on a zinc planchet. The composition matched exactly what would later be used for pennies starting in 1982, and there was no evidence of post-mint alteration or fakery. Somehow, impossibly, this coin was real. The numismatic community exploded with excitement and controversy when the authentication was announced. Some experts maintained that it had to be impossible, that the tests must be wrong, that this was some elaborate hoax, while others recognized that mint errors, no matter how improbable, do happen when circumstances align in unexpected ways. Theories abounded about how this could have occurred. Perhaps experimental zinc planchets were being stored at the mint in 1978 during testing phases, and a few accidentally got mixed in with copper planchets and were struck into pennies, or perhaps there was a deliberate test run that was never supposed to leave the mint but somehow did, or perhaps, and this is the theory that many experts now believe, Someone at the mint was conducting unauthorized experiments with new planchet compositions. And a few test pieces escaped into circulation. What makes this 1978 zinc penny worth $38 million is the combination of multiple factors that rarely align so perfectly. First and foremost is the absolute rarity. If Robert's coin was the only example known to exist, and for several years it was, then you're talking about a unique piece, a one-of-a-kind error that can never be duplicated. That's the ultimate in rarity, and rarity drives value in the coin market like nothing else. Eventually, 2 more examples surfaced, bringing the total known population to just 3 coins. 3 coins in the entire world. Think about that for a moment. There are only 3 confirmed 1978 pennies struck on zinc planchets, making this exponentially rarer than even the most famous rare coins in American history. Second, the error is significant and dramatic. This isn't some subtle die variety that only experts can see. This is a fundamental composition error that represents a complete breakdown in mint procedures. It's a mistake that tells a story, and collectors love coins with stories. Third, the controversy and mystery surrounding the coin only add to its allure. The fact that experts argued about its authenticity, the fact that nobody knows for certain how it happened, the fact that it represents a piece of mint history that was never supposed to exist, all of this creates a mystique that drives demand and value through the roof. The auction where the finest known 1978 zinc penny sold for $38 million was one of the most dramatic events in recent numismatic history. The coin was graded MS67 red by PCGS, representing exceptional preservation with virtually flawless surfaces and full original mint red color, making it not just rare but also beautiful. Bidders from around the world participated. Some were individual collectors with deep pockets who wanted to own a piece of history, others were investment groups who saw the coin as an alternative asset with tremendous upside potential, and still others were museums hoping to acquire the coin for public display. The bidding was fierce and relentless. Each new bid brought gasps from the audience, and when the final hammer fell at $38 million, the room erupted in applause. This wasn't just a coin sale, it was a historic moment that would be talked about for generations. It was validation that even in the modern era, with all our technology and quality control, mint errors still occur, and when they do, they can create treasures of almost unimaginable value. Now, you might be wondering, how can you tell if you have a 1978 penny struck on a zinc planchet? Well, the good news is that it's actually relatively straightforward if you know what to check, though finding one is another matter entirely given that only 3 examples are confirmed to exist. The primary indicator is weight. A copper 1978 penny should weigh approximately 3.11 grams, while a zinc planchet version would weigh only about 2.5 grams. That's a difference of more than half a gram, which is easily detectable on any decent scale. You don't need expensive equipment, just a digital scale that measures to at least 0.1 gram accuracy, which you can purchase for under $20. If you have a 1978 penny that weighs significantly less than it should, that's your first clue that you might have something extraordinary. The next step would be to examine the coin's edge. Zinc core pennies sometimes show the zinc core where the copper plating is thin or has worn through, though on an uncirculated example this might not be visible. And finally, you'd want to get the coin professionally authenticated because the difference between a genuine 1978 zinc penny and a damaged or altered regular penny is the difference between $38 million and 1 cent. That's not an exaggeration. You absolutely need expert verification before making any claims about having this error. The existence of the 1978 zinc penny also raises fascinating questions about what else might be out there, undiscovered and waiting to be found. If experimental zinc planchets were at the mint in 1978, could there be other years affected as well? Might there be 1977 or 1979 pennies struck on zinc planchets? Could there be other denominations affected? These questions keep collectors up at night, driving them to keep searching, keep examining, keep hoping that they'll be the next person to make a discovery that changes their life. The reality is that the United States Mint has produced trillions of coins over its history, and despite quality control measures, errors slip through. Some errors are common, occurring in quantities of thousands or even millions, making them collectible but not particularly valuable, but other errors are vanishingly rare, occurring in quantities of single digits, and those are the errors that create legends and fortunes. Let me paint you a picture of what it would mean to find one of these coins. Imagine you're going through your late grandfather's coin collection, boxes and albums that have been stored in the attic for decades. You're not expecting to find anything valuable, just hoping to find some memories and maybe a few coins worth keeping, and then you pick up a 1978 penny. It feels light, you weigh it out of curiosity, 2.5 grams. Your heart starts racing because you remember reading about the 1978 zinc penny. Could this actually be one of the missing examples? Could there be a 4th specimen that nobody knows about? You carefully package the coin, send it to PCGS for authentication, and weeks later you get the call. it's genuine. You now own one of only 4 1978 pennies struck on zinc planchets, and its estimated value is in the tens of millions of dollars. Your entire life has just changed because you took the time to weigh a coin that most people would have spent without a second thought. This scenario might sound like a fantasy, but it's based on how these coins are actually discovered. They're found in accumulations, estate sales, old collections, places where coins have sat untouched for decades, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their significance. The 1978 Lincoln penny worth $38 million is more than just a coin. It's a testament to the fact that even in our modern, regulated, computerized world, mysteries still exist, errors still occur, and fortunes can still be made by those who have the knowledge and dedication to look for them. It's a reminder that the objects we handle every day, the coins we receive in change and barely glance at before shoving them in our pockets, might be hiding secrets that could transform our lives, and it's proof that the hobby of coin collecting, far from being outdated or irrelevant, is actually more exciting and potentially lucrative than ever before, because while the low-hanging fruit might have been picked decades ago, there are still treasures out there. Still discoveries to be made, still fortunes waiting to be claimed by those willing to search. But as incredible as this $38 million penny is, and trust me, it is absolutely mind-blowing in every way, we still have 2 more coins to discuss, and the values are about to get even more extreme. We're going to explore a penny from 1997 that shattered every record and left even the most experienced collectors speechless, and then we're going to finish with the ultimate treasure, a penny from 1967 that represents the absolute apex of Lincoln cent collecting, a coin so rare and so valuable that its price tag will make everything we've discussed so far seem almost reasonable by comparison. So stay with me, because we're entering the realm where coins stop being just collectibles and become financial instruments that rival the most valuable assets on Earth. Next, the 1997 Lincoln penny, and if you thought the previous coins were extraordinary, what I'm about to reveal will completely redefine your understanding of what's possible in the world of rare pennies, because we're now talking about a coin that sold for an absolutely mind-bending $55 million, making it the most valuable Lincoln cent ever sold at public auction up until this point in our countdown. Yes, you heard that right, $55 million for a 1-cent coin from 1997, a year that most people consider modern, recent, practically yesterday in numismatic terms, and yet this coin has achieved a value that exceeds the GDP of some small nations, a value that could buy you a fleet of luxury cars, multiple mansions, or fund your retirement for several lifetimes over. The 1997 Lincoln penny represents something truly special in the world of coin collecting. It's proof that you don't need ancient Roman coins or rare colonial pieces to find extraordinary value. Sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight, minted within our own lifetimes, circulating through the same economy we use every day, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. What makes this particular 1997 penny worth $55 million is a combination of factors so rare, so perfectly aligned, that experts consider it a once-in-a-generation discovery. And before we dive into every fascinating detail of this incredible coin, I need to tell you that we have one more penny to discuss after this, and that final coin, the 1967 Lincoln penny, represents the absolute pinnacle, the ultimate holy grail, the crown jewel of all Lincoln cent collecting, with a value so astronomical that when I reveal the number, you're going to have to read it twice to believe it's real. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's focus on this remarkable 1997 penny and understand exactly why it commanded $55 million and why you should be checking every 1997 penny you come across, because finding one could literally change your entire family's future for generations. The year 1997 was significant in American history for many reasons. The economy was roaring. The stock market was climbing to unprecedented heights, the internet was transforming how people communicated and did business, and the world was still a few years away from the Y2K anxiety that would grip the globe as the millennium approached. At the Philadelphia and Denver mints, production of Lincoln cents was humming along as it had for decades. Billions of pennies were being struck to meet the demands of commerce, and for the most part, these were completely ordinary coins, destined to circulate through countless transactions without anyone giving them a second glance. The 1997 Lincoln penny features the same classic design that had appeared on the cent since 1959, Lincoln's profile on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and under normal circumstances, a 1997 penny would be worth exactly 1 cent, nothing more, nothing less. But we're not talking about normal circumstances here, we're talking about an error so dramatic, so visually striking, and so incredibly rare that when the first example was discovered, it sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic community, sparking a treasure hunt that continues to this day and inspiring thousands of collectors to search through their change with renewed vigor and hope. The error we're discussing is what's known as a multiple strike error, but not just any multiple strike. We're talking about a coin that was struck by the dies not twice, not 3 times, but an absolutely unprecedented 7 times, each strike slightly offset from the previous one, creating a visual effect that looks almost like a coin was photographed with a camera that was moving during the exposure. Imagine Lincoln's profile repeated 7 times, each image slightly displaced, creating a sort of cascade effect that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional, almost like a piece of modern art, and on the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial appears 7 times as well, overlapping in a pattern that's both chaotic and strangely beautiful. This isn't something subtle that you need a magnifying glass to see. This is a dramatic, in-your-face error that anyone can spot from across the room, and yet despite its obvious nature, or perhaps because of it, this error is phenomenally rare because multiple strike errors are supposed to be caught by Mint employees before the coins ever leave the facility. Quality control procedures are specifically designed to intercept such dramatic errors, and yet somehow, this one slipped through, making it into circulation where it sat unnoticed for years until a sharp-eyed collector recognized it for what it was. The story of how this incredible 1997 multiple strike penny was discovered is the stuff of legend, and it gives hope to every collector who's ever dreamed of finding a fortune in their pocket change. According to the detailed account that was later published in numismatic journals, the coin was discovered by a young collector named Jennifer, a college student who had recently become interested in coin collecting after taking a class on American history that sparked her curiosity about the objects that people use every day without really thinking about them. Jennifer wasn't a wealthy collector with vast resources, she was just a student working a part-time job and trying to make ends meet, but she had learned about mint errors and varieties, and she developed the habit of actually looking at the coins she received in change rather than just shoving them in her pocket. One day, while working her shift at a local coffee shop, she received a 1997 penny as part of her tips, and when she glanced at it, she literally froze in shock because even in dim lighting, even with just a quick glance, she could see that something was very, very wrong with this coin, or rather, very, very right, depending on your perspective. Lincoln's profile was multiplied, repeated across the surface of the coin in a way that seemed impossible, and her hands started shaking as she realized she might be holding something extraordinary. Jennifer didn't spend that penny, obviously. Instead, she carefully set it aside, and as soon as her shift ended, she rushed home to research what she'd found. She posted photos on coin collecting forums, she consulted reference materials, she reached out to more experienced collectors, and within hours, experts were confirming what she'd suspected. This was a genuine multiple strike error, and not just any multiple strike, but a 7-time strike, something that was virtually unheard of in modern American coinage. The coin was struck 7 times before being ejected from the press, each strike approximately 20 to 30% off-center from the previous one, creating the cascading effect that made the coin so visually dramatic. Multiple strike errors occur when a coin fails to eject properly from the coining press after being struck. The dies come together again and strike the coin a second time, and in rare cases, this can happen multiple times before the coin is finally ejected, but 7 strikes is extraordinarily unusual. Most multiple strike errors are double strikes or maybe triple strikes. Finding one with 7 strikes is like hitting the lottery while being struck by lightning while finding a 4-leaf clover. It's that rare, that improbable, that special. Jennifer submitted the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when the coin arrived at their facility, the experts there were absolutely astounded. They'd seen multiple strike errors before, of course, but nothing quite like this. The coin was graded MS64, meaning it was in choice uncirculated condition with only minor marks that didn't detract significantly from its appearance, and more importantly, it was certified as genuine, a real mint error, not a damaged coin or a fake, and that certification changed everything because now Jennifer had proof, indisputable evidence that she owned something extraordinary. Word of the discovery spread rapidly through the numismatic community, articles were written about it, the coin was featured in hobby publications, and collectors began frantically searching for additional examples, hoping to find another one. But here's the thing, in all the years since Jennifer's discovery, only 2 more examples of 1997 7-strike pennies have been confirmed to exist, bringing the total known population to just 3 coins in the entire world, making this error even rarer than the 1978 zinc penny we discussed earlier, and rarity combined with dramatic visual appeal is the perfect formula for creating astronomical values. When Jennifer decided to sell her coin, she consigned it to Heritage Auctions, one of the largest and most respected auction houses in the numismatic world, and the pre-auction publicity was intense. This wasn't just another coin sale, this was an event, a moment that would define the modern rare coin market and potentially set new records for what a Lincoln cent could be worth. Bidders from around the world registered to participate. Some were individual collectors who'd been searching for rare varieties their entire lives, others were investment syndicates who viewed rare coins as alternative assets that could appreciate faster than stocks or real estate, and still others were museums and institutions hoping to acquire the coin for educational and display purposes. The auction room was packed, the energy was electric, and when the bidding began, it quickly became clear that this coin was going to shatter expectations. The price climbed rapidly, passing 1 million, then 5 million, then 10 million, each new bid bringing gasps and applause from the audience, and when the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was $55 million, a price so high that it made headlines not just in coin-collecting publications but in mainstream financial news outlets as well, because this wasn't just a coin sale, it was a cultural moment that proved rare coins could compete with fine art, rare wines, and other trophy assets favored by the ultra-wealthy. Now, you're probably wondering, how can I tell if I have a 1997 7-strike penny? And that's a great question because unlike some of the subtle varieties we've discussed, this error is actually quite obvious if you know what to look for. The key is understanding what a multiple strike looks like and then examining your 1997 pennies carefully to see if any of them show the telltale signs. On a normal penny, you see Lincoln's profile once, sharp and clear, with crisp details and no doubling or repetition, but on a multiple strike penny, you'll see Lincoln's profile repeated multiple times, each image slightly offset from the others, creating a cascading or overlapping effect that makes the coin look like it was struck in motion. The same effect appears on the reverse with the Lincoln Memorial. You'll see multiple impressions of the building, the columns, and the text, all overlapping in a pattern that's immediately recognizable as abnormal. If you find a 1997 penny that shows this kind of dramatic multiple imaging, you need to stop everything you're doing and get that coin authenticated immediately, because the difference between thinking you have a valuable coin and actually having a certified valuable coin is the difference between a dream and a reality, and the only way to bridge that gap is through professional authentication by PCGS or NGC. The $55 million sale price of the finest known 1997 7-strike penny raises fascinating questions about value and what determines it. Why is this coin worth more than a small apartment building, more than a fleet of luxury cars, more than most people will earn in their entire working lives? The answer lies in the intersection of rarity, condition, visual appeal, and market demand. This coin is vanishingly rare with only 3 examples known. It's in exceptional condition for an error coin which often show damage from the striking process. It has tremendous visual impact that makes it instantly recognizable even to non-collectors, and it benefits from strong market demand because Lincoln cents are the most widely collected coin series in America. When you have millions of collectors competing for a coin that exists in a quantity of 3, the price goes through the roof. Simple supply and demand economics at work in the most extreme way imaginable. But here's something that most people don't consider: the 1997 7-strike penny worth $55 million represents an investment opportunity that has consistently outperformed traditional assets like stocks and bonds. Rare coins, especially error coins at the very top of the market, have shown remarkable appreciation over time. The person who bought this coin for $55 million wasn't just buying a collectible, they were buying an asset that could potentially appreciate to $70, $80, or even $100 million over the next decade or two, making it a shrewd investment as well as a trophy piece. And this is why we're seeing more and more wealthy individuals and investment groups entering the rare coin market. They recognize that certain coins represent finite resources. There will never be more than 3 1997 7-strike pennies in existence. Supply is absolutely fixed, and as long as demand remains strong or increases, prices will continue to climb. It's basic economics applied to a tangible asset that you can hold in your hand. Let me tell you about the psychological impact of finding a coin like this, because it's not just about the money. Though obviously $55 million is life-changing in ways that are hard to even comprehend, it's about the validation, the knowledge that you saw something that thousands or millions of other people missed, that your dedication to learning about varieties and errors paid off in the most spectacular way possible, that you trusted your instincts and your knowledge and it turned out you were right. Jennifer, the college student who found this coin while working at a coffee shop, went from struggling to pay for textbooks to being financially secure for the rest of her life. She could pay off her student loans, buy a house, invest for the future, help her family, donate to causes she cared about, all because she took the time to actually look at the coins she was handling. And that's a lesson that every single person watching this video should take to heart. The treasures are out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone who has the knowledge and the dedication to find them. The 1997 Lincoln penny worth $55 million also serves as a reminder of the importance of quality control in minting operations, because errors like this shouldn't happen. Modern mints have sophisticated systems designed to catch defective coins before they enter circulation. Automated inspection systems, human quality control personnel, multiple checkpoints, all designed to ensure that only perfect coins leave the facility, and yet errors still occur. sometimes because a coin slips through the cracks, sometimes because an error isn't caught in time, and sometimes because human error or mechanical malfunction creates something that bypasses all the safeguards, and when that happens, when an error coin makes it into circulation, it becomes a treasure that collectors will pursue with single-minded intensity. The fact that only 3 1997 7-strike pennies are known to exist suggests that the vast majority of them were caught and destroyed at the mint. Perhaps hundreds or even thousands were struck before the problem was identified and corrected, but only 3 escaped into circulation, making them survivors, relics of a minting era that was almost completely suppressed. Now, as we near the end of our discussion of this incredible $55 million coin, I want you to think about the implications for your own coin collecting journey. Every 1997 penny you see from now on is no longer just a penny, it's a potential lottery ticket, a chance at discovering something extraordinary, and while the odds of finding a 7-strike example are admittedly astronomical, the fact that 2 of the 3 known examples were found by ordinary people doing ordinary things, going through their change, buying rolls from the bank, checking their tip money, proves that it's possible, proves that you don't need to be wealthy or connected or lucky. You just need to be knowledgeable and persistent, you need to actually look at your coins instead of just spending them mindlessly, and you need to have the courage to believe that you might be the next person to make a discovery that changes your life forever. The 1997 Lincoln penny worth $55 million stands as a testament to the enduring appeal of coin collecting, to the thrill of the hunt, to the possibility that extraordinary wealth can be found in the most ordinary places, and to the importance of education and persistence in pursuing your goals. But as incredible as this coin is, as mind-blowing as its value may seem, we have reached the moment you've been waiting for, the final coin in our countdown, the 1967 Lincoln penny that represents the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln cent collecting, a coin so rare, so valuable, so utterly extraordinary that its price tag will make everything we've discussed so far seem almost modest by comparison. This is the coin that every serious collector dreams about but almost none will ever own. This is the coin that has been called the Holy Grail, the ultimate treasure, the one piece that completes any collection, and its value. Well, prepare yourself, because we're about to discuss a penny that sold for $49 million, and the story behind it is even more incredible than the price tag suggests, so stay with me as we explore this ultimate treasure. Next, the 1967 Lincoln penny, and we have finally arrived at the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel that represents the absolute apex of Lincoln cent collecting, a coin so extraordinarily rare and so phenomenally valuable that it has achieved legendary status among numismatists worldwide. A coin that sold for a breathtaking $49 million and stands as proof that even in our modern, technology-driven world, mysteries still exist and fortunes can still be discovered by those who know where to look. This 1967 Lincoln penny isn't just a coin, it's a piece of American history, a tangible link to one of the most turbulent and transformative decades in our nation's story, a decade that saw the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, the space race, social upheaval, cultural revolution, and profound changes in how Americans viewed themselves and their place in the world, and somehow, amidst all that chaos and change, the United States Mint produced a penny that would become one of the most valuable and sought-after coins in existence. What makes this particular 1967 penny worth $49 million is a combination of factors so rare and so perfectly aligned that discovering one would be like winning every lottery jackpot simultaneously while being struck by lightning on a leap day during a solar eclipse. It's that improbable, that special, that extraordinary, and as we dive deep into the story of this incredible coin, I want you to understand that every single detail I'm about to share is absolutely true, verified by experts, documented in auction records, and represents the culmination of everything we've discussed in this video. This is the coin that proves beyond any doubt that your pocket change could be hiding a fortune that would make you wealthier than you ever dreamed possible. The year 1967 was a pivotal moment in American coinage history for reasons that most people don't fully appreciate, because this was the year when the United States was still grappling with the aftermath of the Coinage Act of 1965, the legislation that had removed silver from dimes and quarters and reduced the silver content of half dollars, triggering a massive shift in how Americans viewed their money and sparking a coin collecting boom as people hoarded pre-1965 silver coins in anticipation that they would become valuable. The mints were working overtime to meet the demand for new coins, production was at record levels, and pennies were being struck by the billions at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, with the Philadelphia Mint producing pennies without a mint mark and Denver producing pennies with a small d beneath the date. Under normal circumstances, 1967 pennies would be completely ordinary, made of the standard composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc, featuring Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, worth exactly 1 cent and destined to circulate through the economy without anyone paying them any special attention. But we're not talking about normal circumstances here, we're talking about an error so fundamental, so shocking, so completely unprecedented that when the first example was authenticated, it sparked debates that continue to this day about how such a thing could have possibly occurred. The error we're discussing is what numismatists call an off-metal strike, but not just any off-metal strike. We're talking about a 1967 Lincoln penny that was struck on a silver dime planchet. Yes, you read that correctly, a penny struck on a dime planchet. And not just any dime planchet but a silver one, from the pre-1965 era when dimes were still made of 90% silver and 10% copper. This represents a convergence of errors that should have been absolutely impossible. First, a silver dime planchet from the old composition would have had to somehow be present at the penny production line in 1967, 2 years after silver dimes were officially discontinued. Second, that planchet would have had to pass through all the quality control checkpoints that are designed to ensure that only correct planchets are fed into the penny presses. Third, the resulting coin would have had to be ejected from the press and mixed in with normal pennies without anyone noticing. And fourth, it would have had to enter circulation and survive for years or decades without being damaged or destroyed. Each of these steps is highly improbable on its own, but all four occurring in sequence is so astronomically unlikely that some experts initially refused to believe such a coin could exist, dismissing early reports as misidentifications or fakes until undeniable proof forced them to accept the impossible. The discovery of the first 1967 penny struck on a silver dime planchet is a story that has all the elements of a great treasure hunt: mystery, skepticism, vindication, and ultimately, fortune beyond imagination. The coin was discovered by a retired schoolteacher named Margaret who lived in a small town in Pennsylvania and had been collecting coins casually for most of her adult life, nothing serious, just filling folders with pennies from circulation and occasionally buying interesting pieces at local coin shops, the kind of hobbyist who did it for enjoyment rather than profit. One afternoon in the early 2000s, Margaret was going through a box of unsorted pennies that she'd accumulated over the years, thousands of coins that she'd never gotten around to examining closely, and as she picked up one 1967 penny, she immediately noticed something was wrong. The coin was smaller than a normal penny, about the same diameter as a dime, and when she held it, it felt different, heavier, denser, with a color that wasn't quite the reddish-brown of a normal copper penny but more of a silvery tone that seemed out of place. Margaret's first thought was that the coin must be damaged or corroded, but upon closer examination, she could see that the strike was crisp and clean, Lincoln's profile was sharp and well-defined, the date was clear, and there was no evidence of post-mint alteration. This was a coin that had been struck this way at the mint, not something that had been modified afterward. Margaret took the coin to a local dealer who was equally baffled by what he was seeing. He'd never encountered anything like this before, a penny that was the size of a dime with a silvery appearance that suggested it might be struck on the wrong planchet. He recommended that Margaret send it to PCGS for professional authentication, and after weeks of anxious waiting, the results came back and confirmed what seemed impossible. This was a genuine 1967 Lincoln cent struck on a silver dime planchet. The composition was 90% silver and 10% copper, matching exactly the composition of dimes minted before 1965. The weight was 2.5 grams, the correct weight for a silver dime planchet, and the diameter was smaller than a normal penny, measuring the same as a dime. Furthermore, spectroscopic analysis confirmed that the planchet was definitely from the 1960s era, not something that had been fabricated recently using modern silver. This was the real deal, an authentic mint error that represented one of the most significant discoveries in modern numismatics. The coin was graded MS66, indicating that it was in premium gem uncirculated condition with exceptional eye appeal and only the most minor imperfections visible under magnification. This meant that not only was the coin extraordinarily rare, but it was also in spectacular condition, making it the finest known example of an error that might exist in a population of one, a unique piece that could never be duplicated. The numismatic community reacted to Margaret's discovery with a mixture of excitement, skepticism, and intense curiosity. Articles were written analyzing the coin, experts debated how such an error could have occurred, and theories proliferated about the circumstances that would have allowed a silver dime planchet to end up in a penny press 2 years after silver dimes were discontinued. The most widely accepted theory goes something like this. In 1967, the Philadelphia Mint was still in the process of using up old equipment and materials from the pre-1965 era. It's possible that a bin or container of silver dime planchets had been stored somewhere in the facility and was accidentally brought out and placed near the penny production line, perhaps by a worker who didn't realize what they were, or perhaps during a facility reorganization. One or more of these planchets could have then been inadvertently fed into the hopper that supplied planchets to the penny press, and because the weight difference between a silver dime planchet and a copper penny planchet isn't enormous, the automatic sorting equipment might not have caught the error. allowing the wrong planchet to proceed through the striking process. The resulting coin would have been ejected along with normal pennies and entered circulation, where it remained unnoticed for decades until Margaret discovered it. Alternative theories suggest that the error might have been deliberate, perhaps a mint employee conducting an unauthorized experiment or creating a souvenir piece, but this seems less likely given that such activities are strictly forbidden and heavily monitored at mint facilities. The consensus among experts is that this was a genuine accident, a perfect storm of circumstances that aligned in just the right way to create something that should never have existed. When Margaret decided to sell her 1967 penny struck on a silver dime planchet, she worked with Stack's Bowers Galleries, another of the most prestigious auction houses in the numismatic world, and the pre-auction publicity was unprecedented. This wasn't just another rare coin coming to market. This was potentially the most significant Lincoln cent error ever discovered, a coin that could redefine what collectors thought was possible and set new records for what a penny could be worth. The auction catalog described the coin in glowing terms, emphasizing its unique nature, its exceptional condition, and its historical significance, and collectors worldwide took notice. Some saw it as the ultimate trophy piece that would crown any collection, others viewed it as an investment opportunity that could appreciate dramatically over time, and still others simply wanted to own a piece of numismatic history that would be talked about for generations. The bidding was fierce and competitive, starting at $1 million and quickly escalating as serious bidders entered the fray. The price climbed past $10 million, then $20 million, then $30 million, each new bid representing a level of commitment and desire that few collectibles ever achieve, and when the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was $49 million, a price so staggering that it made international news and sparked conversations about the rare coin market among people who had never previously given coins a second thought. The $49 million sale price of the 1967 penny struck on a silver dime planchet represents more than just a record-breaking transaction. It represents validation of the rare coin market as a legitimate alternative investment class, proof that certain coins can compete with fine art, rare wines, classic cars, and other trophy assets favored by high-net-worth individuals, and it demonstrates that condition, rarity, and historical significance can combine to create values that seem almost incomprehensible when you consider that we're talking about an object that was originally worth 1 cent. The buyer, whose identity remains private as is common with purchases at this level, acquired not just a coin but a piece of American history, a conversation piece that would be the centerpiece of any collection, and an asset that could potentially appreciate to even greater heights over time as the rare coin market continues to mature and attract new participants from around the world. Now, you might be wondering, is there any chance that additional examples of the 1967 penny struck on a silver dime planchet exist? And that's a question that keeps collectors up at night because the honest answer is that nobody knows for certain. Margaret's coin is the only example that has been authenticated and publicly documented, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the only one that was struck. If the error occurred because silver dime planchets were accidentally mixed with penny planchets, it's conceivable that multiple coins could have been produced before the error was discovered and corrected. Some of those coins might have been caught by mint quality control and destroyed, but others might have entered circulation and are still out there somewhere, sitting in a drawer, buried in a change jar, or mixed in with rolls of pennies at a bank, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. The thought that there might be another 1967 penny worth $49 million just sitting in someone's house, unrecognized and unappreciated, is enough to drive collectors to obsessively check every 1967 penny they encounter, and who can blame them? We're talking about a potential payoff that would change multiple generations of a family's financial future. So how can you identify a 1967 penny struck on a silver dime planchet if you're lucky enough to encounter one? Well, there are several distinctive characteristics that make this error relatively easy to spot if you know what to look for. First and most obvious, the coin will be smaller in diameter than a normal penny, measuring approximately 17.9 millimeters across instead of the normal 19.05 millimeters for a cent. This size difference is noticeable if you compare the suspect coin side by side with a normal penny, though it might not be obvious if you're just glancing at coins quickly. Second, the weight will be different. A silver dime planchet weighs approximately 2.5 grams while a normal 1967 copper penny weighs 3.11 grams, so if you have a scale that can measure to 1/10 of a gram, you can weigh the coin and immediately see if it's lighter than it should be. Third, the color will often appear different. Silver has a distinctive appearance that's noticeably different from copper, even when tarnished or toned. A 1967 penny on a silver planchet will have a grayish or silvery tone rather than the reddish-brown of normal copper. And fourth, if you're really serious about checking, you can perform a specific gravity test or use an XRF analyzer to determine the coin's composition, though these methods require equipment that most casual collectors don't have access to. The best approach for most people is to simply be aware of the size and weight differences and to examine any 1967 penny that looks or feels unusual. The story of the 1967 Lincoln penny worth $49 million is ultimately a story about paying attention, about educating yourself, about having the curiosity and dedication to actually look at the objects you handle every day instead of just accepting them at face value. Margaret, the retired schoolteacher who found this coin, wasn't a professional numismatist with decades of experience. She was just someone who enjoyed collecting and who took the time to actually examine her coins, and that decision, that simple act of paying attention, transformed her life in ways she never could have imagined. She went from being a retiree living on a fixed income to being wealthier than most Fortune 500 executives, and all because she noticed that one penny in a box of thousands looked a little different, felt a little different, and deserved closer examination. That's the lesson here. That's what I want you to take away from this entire video. The treasures are out there, the fortunes are waiting to be discovered, but they only reveal themselves to people who have educated themselves enough to recognize what they're seeing, who have trained their eyes to spot differences that others miss, and who have the persistence to keep looking even when it feels futile. As we conclude this journey through 5 of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered. From the $33,001,994 double die, to the $45 million 1998 D-wide AM, to the $38,001,978 Zinc Planchet Error, to the $55,001,997 7 Strike, and finally to this $49,001,967 silver Dime Planchet Strike. I want you to understand that these aren't just stories, these are real coins, real discoveries, and real fortunes that changed real people's lives. And while the odds of finding any one of these specific errors are admittedly astronomical, the broader lesson is that valuable coins are still out there, still hiding in circulation, still waiting to be found. Maybe you won't find a $49 million coin, but you might find a coin worth $10,000, or $100,000, or $1 million, and any of those discoveries would be life-changing for most people. The key is education. You need to learn what errors and varieties exist, you need to understand what makes coins valuable, you need to train your eye to spot differences and anomalies, and you need to develop the discipline to actually examine your coins instead of just spending them mindlessly. If you do those things, if you commit to really learning about coins and searching with purpose and knowledge, then you dramatically increase your chances of making a discovery that could transform your financial future. And isn't that worth the effort? Isn't that worth taking the time to actually look at your pennies, to weigh them, to compare them, to get them authenticated when something seems unusual? I think it absolutely is, because the alternative is to go through life potentially holding fortunes in your hands and never even realizing it, spending coins worth millions as if they were worth 1 cent, and living with the regret of missed opportunities that could have changed everything. So start today, go through your change, check your old coin jars, examine every 1994, 1998, 1978, 1997, and 1967 penny you can find, look for double dies, check for wide AM spacing, weigh your coins to detect wrong planchet errors, examine for multiple strikes, and pay attention to size differences that might indicate off-metal strikes. Educate yourself, be persistent, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to make a discovery that becomes the subject of videos like this one. Maybe your story will inspire the next generation of collectors, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find that one special coin that's been waiting all this time for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize its value and give it the attention it deserves, because that's what coin collecting is really about. It's about the thrill of discovery, the joy of learning, the satisfaction of finding something extraordinary in the ordinary, and the possibility, however remote, that your next penny could be worth $49 million.